Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 11th of April, comes to you from London. Dollar is still bearish on the short-term chart, just drifting lower. It rose yesterday but fell right back, so we're just teetering along on this 96.90 level on the index. So short-term bearish, long-term still bullish. The euro looking stronger against the dollar as a result. Bit of a dip yesterday on the ECB comments, but recovered. So we are seeing that it's just holding that gains against the dollar, and the dollar is still weak against the Japanese yen. So that's always a clear sign that it will be against most other currencies. Sterling is actually edging higher against the dollar after yesterday's Brexit vote, and against the euro, we see sterling is still actually bearish. So that's quite key there. Taking a look at Bitcoin, down 2% this morning. So the first sort of big fall since the jump last week, but still holding on to the bullish trend. So and still well above $5,000. So nothing to really worry about at the moment. Looking at the S&P 500 index, we're up 1/3% yesterday, so still looking strong. The Nasdaq also looking quite strong as well, and the Russell 2000 index is flat. The Dow is actually up very slightly. We'll look at the individual stocks in a minute, and the Russell 2000 index was flat. The futures this morning, the S&P future, very little changed, up 0.02%. The Nasdaq E-mini up 0.01%. So from that, we can't really determine which way the US markets will open. There's no signal in the futures. Looking at the UK market, the FTSE 100 index is down 1/4% this morning. The midcaps we're seeing up 0.2%, so we're seeing a little bit of improvement there, although that's been quite flat on the chart for the last week now. The DAX in Germany 0.09%, so not much action there, and the CAC 40 tends to be still outperforming as the European market up 0.44% this morning. In clear bullish territory on all three time frames. The DAX, interesting, still has work to do to get back into that bullish territory. So the German market's still not looking great from a long-term perspective. The Japanese market was down very slightly, so that's just starting to turn bearish. The Hang Seng was down 0.76%, and China was down, the Shanghai index was down 1.6%. Interestingly, we're just hitting long-term resistance on the lagging line in the cloud there, so it might be that we see a little bit of a sell-off, but on the whole, China has held up and it is still bullish on the short term. The Sensex in India is down very slightly, but still bullish on all three time frames, and the Aussie market down 0.4%. Brent crude down nearly 0.5% this morning to 71.41, jumped above that $71 level yesterday. It's come back this morning. But interestingly, we were nudging $72 yesterday, so looking very strong. We've still got upside targets on Brent to 72.32 and 74.22, so significant upside there. Taking a look at the WTI chart, we're down more than 0.5% there this morning at $64, but again bullish still on all three time frames. US nat gas sitting in the doldrums at $2.70, not much change there. Taking a look at gold, we are sitting at $1,305, so holding on to that $1,300 level. We nudged 1310 yesterday, so we're bullish on all three time frames. Interestingly, the long-term picture with the lagging line still not quite clear. We've got to come out of that cloud to be quite sure of that. And silver also looking bullish on the short term. US 10-year yields, not much change here. We are sitting at 2.48%, still short-term bearish on the chart, so it's quite key. This data coming to you from Thomson Reuters Icon, or if you're using a private user, Metastock Zenith. Taking a look at the individual stocks, data here from Yahoo Finance. First of all, take a look at the Dow Jones. Goldman Sachs was the best performer at 1.2% yesterday, and looking like a recovery. Not quite breaking resistance yet on that chart. Boeing was the worst performer again, down 1.1%, just starting to test this support level and on the verge of breaking it. Price is just becoming below the cloud, and we see here how the relative is breaking to new lows as well. So not looking good for the Dow, for Boeing. Taking a look at the Nasdaq. The best performers were Renergen Pharmaceuticals, up 3%. So pretty good performance there. Tesla actually recovering a little bit, up 1.4% in the leaders there. On the downside, we had Fox Corporation. They were down 2.6%. And we see here not as many stocks were down, but a lot of stocks not doing a great deal. Facebook only up 0.14%, for example, but edging higher all the time and back into long-term bullish territory. So that's a little bit of a turnaround there. The Aussie market, the best performer was Infigen Energy. They were up 8%. Starting to look a little bit like a recovery on the chart, but still got work to do. Relative actually turning around quite nicely, but not a great chart to read. On the downside, Bank of Queensland were down nearly 5%, pushing below the cloud, bearish on both charts, and the relative looking terrible there. Looking at China, it was mostly down. We're down 1.6%. Of course, there was only one stock up. That was China Galaxy Securities. They were up 0.45%. They're looking pretty good, actually. On the downside, we did have quite a few stocks around 4% down. Wanhoo Chemical were down that much. So we saw that. On the Indian market, and excitement now about elections there, we see here that the best performer was Hindustan Petroleum, overnight up 1.6%. So looking better there. On the downside, we had Vedanta down 4%, so still bearish on the chart, not looking great. But it'll be interesting to watch the volatility in the Indian market over the next few days as we go through these elections. Looks like a lot of the petroleum stocks looking pretty strong. Bharat Petroleum up 1.5% as well. So quite interesting. Indian Oil also up nearly 1%. And the chart looking better and better. So we are seeing this upside targets here as well, but not quite as clear cut as some of the others. So interesting to see that there. Taking a look at the, we just see the live pricing coming in from Yahoo Finance. Taking a look at the UK market this morning, the best performer in FTSE is EasyJet, up 2.3%. It's a good performance for them this morning, but the chart's still pretty dismal. We're down. We've underperformed the Dow by 15% so far this year. TUI is the next stock, up 1.5%, although the chart is again dismal. And looking at IAG, British Airways, that's also up today at 1.6%. So we're seeing airlines generally looking pretty good, but again, we're seeing that the charts don't look great there. IAG really falling away. Taking a look at the downside in the UK, Standard Life Aberdeen down 5%. That's quite a big fall there. Aviva down 4%. Again, quite a fall. So we are seeing some pretty big moves in the market today. And again, we see the live pricing coming in there from Yahoo. Taking a look at the 250, Card Factory is the best performer, up 3% this morning. That's not enough to really make the chart look any different. And Nvidia had a terrible day yesterday. They've just got a little bit of relief, really, up 3%, which is a very small consolation after the shares almost halving yesterday. Taking the look at the worst performers, Hilton Food Group down 2.5%, IP Group down 2.5%. Quite a lot of these charts still looking pretty bearish, it has to be said. Last of all, looking at the European markets, LVMH in France looking very strong. Strongest performer this morning, up a further 3.6%. The stock breaking to new highs looks really amazing. Outperformed the Dow Jones Index so far this year by about 18%. We do have a shortage of upside targets there for LVMH, so that's quite interesting. Looking at the downside, we've got Engie down 1.7%, so we are just seeing there a bit of a sell-off. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.